G'day, my name's Nick Goldschmidt. I'm going to talk a little bit about closures, and the two main closures that we typically come across these days are corks and screw caps, and there are many different versions in between. The most interesting thing for me is when thinking about a closure is what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get an absolute seal? Are we trying to get a seal that's good enough? Tied in with that is also the quality of the glass, and I don't have a bottle here to show you today, but when you drink a bottle of wine, put your finger on the inside and run it up the inside of that neck, and you'll feel a very strong ridge in that bottle. And that's the beautiful thing about a cork, because you can take a cork, the cork typically has a grain that runs up and down in that cork, and so when you squeeze it, the memory of that cork gradually pushes back out against the glass, and so you get this great seal. There are other alternatives these days. You might have an agglomerated cork. You might see a cork like this, which is made up of a number of different cork particles. When you squeeze this cork though, you don't have the same memory as you do with a natural cork, and so you may end up with more random oxidation. The advantages and disadvantages of using a cork are many. There's a thing called TCA, which is trichloroanisole, but there's TBA as well, which is another form of cork taint. And the best way to describe cork taint is if you go into a house that's been closed up for say a month or two, and you open it and you get that smell that comes from perhaps the carpet. It's like a dusty smell. That to me is what I see as cork taint, is that sort of stank air or closed up smell that you get from the house, and I'm quite sensitive to it, and many people are as well. The other thing that happens is, as I said, is when you squeeze that cork and let it re-expand, you do allow a certain amount of random oxidation to occur. Some cork goes back out faster and some goes out a little bit slower, or some doesn't go very fast at all, and so that's how you get the small amount of oxygen that passes by the cork and goes into the wine. The third thing you may notice is you can actually get a cork flavor. If you put a cork in your mouth, you actually have a flavor of that cork, and that in some way imparts a small amount into that wine and so affects the wine as well. These days we've been talking more and more about screw cap, and there are two forms of screw cap. If it's shiny, like this one, this is what we call a tin seal, so it's an absolute seal. If you open a screw cap and it's white on the inside, that's what we call Cyrenax, and Cyrenax allows a small amount of oxygen to pass through, and so you still get some form of aging. When it comes to ageability of a screw cap, you might be very interested to know that wines age really, really well with a screw cap. When wines age, you get a certain amount of bottle bouquet and a bottle aroma, and that can only come through a lack of oxidation. And so with a screw cap, you have an absolute seal, and so wines age very gracefully. I was very lucky to try Jacobs Creek Claret and a Jacobs Creek Riesling that was 20 years old, that was aged under a screw cap. Jacobs Creek is a brand that's made in Australia by Orlando Estate, but I was very lucky to try those wines, and they were very old and aged under a screw cap, and they were fantastic. Very still fruity, very aromatically sound, and very pleasant to drink. I'm a huge fan of screw caps. I really like them for wine by the glass. I love it with my drinking with my younger children who are just coming into the drinking age. It's a very convenient closure and very easy to use and very easy to store the wine. But I still think there is a place for cork as well. Cork is more traditional and something that's been used for years and years, and I think there is certainly a place for both sorts of closures.